joined today by Joe McFadden from Pep. So excited to have you here today, Joe. Would you like to just do a little intro, who you are, what Pep does, and then we'll kick off?
Yeah, cool. Thanks, Nadia. So I am General Manager of Pep Worldwide New Zealand. We essentially help people harness the power of working well. We are all about productivity for wellbeing. And I've been with Pep for over 11 years. I started off as a facilitator and have kind of moved through different roles. And I guess, for those of you listening, if you're thinking, oh, what does that even mean? I always use this analogy that, most of us are taught, how to do a job, but we're never taught how to work. And whether you've learned how to do your job through university and then on-site training, or just actually learnt it from your co-workers. So we actually play in that space with organisations around supporting people to sort of smart cut the way they work. And I guess, Nadia, you've been through Pep. Is there anything you'd add here, like, as a participant from a descriptor perspective?
I think you've nailed it in that we are given software, we're given jobs to do, that we're given theory behind it. To say, if you go to university or if you're a tradie, you're taught how to do a job. What we pick up, the way that we work, as in how we use our calendars, how we let email sometimes control our days, because that's what we've learned from other people or generations before us. We haven't actually learned how to use the software efficiently or effectively to better out. That's what I got out of it, was that reliance on unlearning what you'd learned from kind of the other generations.
Yeah, nice. I love it. And I love when you start talking about the software, because you guys are software providers, right? That's
Sure.
Yeah, so that's your business. And I think the thing that we notice is that industry has come in leaps and bounds. What we have on offer now is incredible if you think back to, just even 20 years ago, and within one lifetime, how far we've come. And I think we talk about the 3 evolutions of work, and it's actually quite a good thing to share, because it kind of puts things into perspective. So if we think about the first evolution of work, was all about paper. If you're too young to remember this, you might remember your parents or your grandparents talking about the days when they had desks and in trays. I know there's lots of young people out there.
Fax machines, Joe. My dad used to fax things.
Yeah, exactly right.
And that was a step up from post.
Yeah, that was modern technology. And then, then we moved, along came the internet, we had email, and everybody was going to be incredibly organised, and it was just going to be revolutionise the way we work. Now, it did revolutionise the way we work. We talk about the V3, volume, velocity and variability, and talk about volume increase and the velocity, it was instant. So instead of things being delivered to you by a person to your desk, and sometimes, obviously by snail mail, you've got it, and as we're talking, emails are just popping into the inbox. And then due to COVID, the acceleration of the 3rd evolution of work, which is where we were heading, and it's very much all about cloud-based working. And that's we're in the 3rd evolution of work, and the technology's designed to actually make our lives simpler. If you look at this technology, it's designed to make things easy, yet we are more stressed than we've ever been, and people are working longer than they've ever worked, and burnout rates are through the roof. And that's not just because of COVID. We were on trend to really set some unsustainable records. And, if I think about some really good examples around software, I was asked to speak at quite a large organisation about a year and a half ago. They'd implemented 365, and they had, all this amazing software. And then they asked me to just come in. It was more of an inform and kind of demystify some of this. It was an hour session. I was mainly asked to talk on Microsoft Teams, what it is, what it replaces, what are some of the functionalities we can be looking at. And at the end of that hour, and these were big, the heads and decision makers and the people that held the purse strings, deathly silent. And then someone said, I thought Teams was for meetings. And, there was just this chaos because no one really knew what the software was going to do. So, it's just fascinating from our perspective when we look at the 3 levels of adoption. There's the app adoption, which we still see really commonly. You've got people that, I've got Teams, and, they've got Teams on their computer or on their device. And then there's the functional adoption, which is the next level, which is, yep, I've got Teams. I know how to have a team meeting, and they might have got the 1 hour team, their actual work team going, okay, and this is how you use it, and this is what we're going to, or there might be a cheat sheet from the organization or a little bit of in-house training. But really it still causes chaos because they're thinking, oh yeah, I should know more, but who really has the time to get curious and understand it? And the third, that third level of adoption is all around that immersive adoption, and that's kind of our sweet spot. We're not technical experts, but the immersive adoption is where you upgrade the software and we upgrade the humanware. If you think about it, like it's such a great way of kind of framing it. Well, I really like this because I go to bed at night and plug my phone in and it gets upgraded. You go, it needs an upgrade. It has the little signal and you go, yep, cool, upgrade now. And it gets, it's all good, tickety boo. In the morning, it's doing all these things that I haven't really noticed, or I'm like, oh, that's new. But we don't lie down at night and plug in and get updated on how to maximize and utilize this incredible software. We are left scrambling going, it's another thing. And I just find it really fascinating because the amount of people we work with that they're just kind of almost putting their hands up going, stop, don't give me any more. And it's really sad because actually the increase and the technological advances are amazing for us. We just have taken ourselves out of the driver's seat. We're almost, it's like we've become a passenger and we no longer are controlling how it runs us. Does that make sense?
Totally does. I find it interesting that you say that. My son said this morning to me, Mum, what are these apps on my iPad? I didn't put these there. And I said to him, oh, when you did the last update, they would have just been part of the new update. And he said to me, but I don't need them. Why are they there? And but that's exactly what you're saying. If you think even back to back in the day, it was Microsoft Paint and we had a Microsoft Word. And now even those applications, let alone when you start getting into the Power Apps or when you start getting into Teams and the power of Teams, and now they're talking about Viva. What are these? And you can only grasp so much, right?
Yeah, and I think, and that's spot on, because the advances will just keep moving forward. I mean, that's what technology companies do, right? They are at the forefront of going, what else is out there? This is exciting. But actually what we forget from a user perspective is, are we upskilling people to maximize the benefits? And if we are upskilling them to maximize the benefits and put them back in the driver's seat so they feel more in control, and that's the piece around that productivity and well-being, because if you make people feel well and in control and you're reducing their stress because you're showing them how to use technology well and how to work in a really sustainable way, then it's just like it's a win-win all round. And the thing that we love, and the work we do, because it's human to human, whether it's virtual or face to face, and obviously a lot virtual right now. But it's less about, oh, I feel more productive. Not that many people actually say that. Like that's quite a, I don't know, it's quite an odd term to throw around. Really, you wouldn't.
It's a bit of a tertiary book term, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. It is actually, and I think the thing that keeps us doing what we're doing, that we love so much, is, oh, I'm spending more time with my family in the weekends, and do you know what? I'm not working every night. Like it is the wellbeing aspect that makes the real difference here, because that cuts to the heart of us as human beings.
I love that. That is like the work life version of the Russian woman syndrome. And it's so but it's so true. You if you can get back that efficiency and effectiveness and use the tools how they were, and you can get back some more of your family life, that's a real win in so many different ways. And I guess looking from this, we are a software provider. We allow our resellers to sell, this amazing products, Microsoft licenses, etc. How do we enable the companies, our customers, to actually utilize those licenses better, so that they are actually happier with their purchase, but also potentially are going to purchase more? So there's a real business benefit here as well for all of us by looking at this Humanware side, I believe.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and I think that the interesting thing from our perspective is when we look, because at the end of our programs we do that where people rate themselves, and obviously the program and the utilization of the technology. So we get them to look at regardless of what the technology they're using is. But to be fair, most, I think it probably 90% of our clients are 365 clients, have either moved or are 365 users. And, like the uptake in skill level and behavior change in relation to the tools is between 20 and 40%. I mean, we've actually got clients that I almost don't want to say what their results are, because you go, oh, that's surely not, but it's in the 70s, 80s where people have turned up really not knowing what the software was meant to do. And I think that's the key here, is that it's taking it from that functional adoption to that immersive adoption. Like I know it's demystified. I'm not scared of it anymore. And what does it replace? Which is the other thing, because what we hear a lot of is, oh, now I have to do this, It's like, it's another place to get my information, another place to store it, and another way of, oh, now I've got planner boards. And it's like, yeah, well, it's just a Kanban board. I mean, we've had those for a long time. It's just a different way of displaying it, and once you wrap people's heads around that and then help them with some principles and some behaviors, yeah, it's super exciting.
I've been through it. It is incredibly exciting from an individual point of view as well. So do you want to talk to us a little bit about how Pep relates to the software?
So how Pep relates to the software, we have different programs we run. So we've got, like Pep Principles, which is our 2-day program, and it talks through key principles essentially to work well from an efficiency and an effectiveness perspective. And how it relates to software is whoever turns up, whatever they're using, we are working with them to look at workflow and planning and all aspects of managing your work from a technology perspective. So most people are using 365, and we talk about Outlook and tasks. Are you using quick steps? And then in relation to the software especially around OneDrive, OneNote, Planner, and Teams, have you got your information in the right place? Is it set up well? Do you understand, have you made agreements on how you're going to make this work? Because the funniest thing happens, you get this new technology and the really curious people set up heaps of teams, and then all of a sudden they're a member of 65 teams, and it's like having 65 inboxes, plus you've still got your inbox. And I think just that initial kind of knee-jerk, oh, how do we do this? Let's go all out. And then other people just shying away, going, no, it's too much. I'm overwhelmed. So we take our principles and we relate, we have a PEP for Microsoft 365. And it's, as we're taking people on the PEP journey, we're directly getting them to practically update, implement, and agree how they'll work in that space. And is that kind of answering your question? Like, yeah. So we always say we're not the technical experts. I mean, we would go to your partners or you guys to go, hey, look, if you need technical experts, you need to go to your Microsoft partner for that. but we come in around principles that support a human on how to work well. And yes, of course, we have to understand some depth around a lot of what Microsoft is offering. And we have gone quite in depth around, especially around some of the Microsoft 365 tools. But it is in relation to what the client's wanting, because some people, some clients are wanting it to be quite deep, and some clients are wanting, no, I just want the utilization to be upped. And when you think about, if you've got clients that are paying good money for software, it's really in your best interest to help them so that the utilization is up and the people are feeling really good, because then what's going to happen is, it's like that flywheel, right? So you love the Microsoft product, your people's capability is, you're rising the bar on capability, and then they'll want more from you. They'll go, this is working really well. Okay, what else? What else can we do? As opposed to the opposite effect, which is overwhelm. We've spent a lot of money, it's going sideways, and everyone's reverting back to email, and it's a bloomin' shambles. Which we are seeing as well. So there's, and there's everything in between.
You touch a lot on, obviously, the well-being, and I know for us, and I know for a lot of our partners, recruitment is so difficult at the moment, so difficult at the moment. And so the well-being and the retaining of our good staff is so important as well. And I'm sure it's like that for a lot of our customers. And so that well-being, really, if we can actually do different activities to not only help the bottom line or the business will keep those subscriptions, but we're also helping our people to help that retainment. That to me is like that full circle balanced scorecard of all of sort of ticking all of those boxes. I'd be really interested what trends you're seeing in relation to people's well-being, especially with COVID. I know I'm seeing trends with recruitment, but what are some trends that you're seeing with well-being?
Yeah, well-being or unwell-being, we might want to say. The trends are not great, and COVID's really accelerated, I guess, what we were already seeing. I mean, there are some fantastic things that have come out of COVID. And to give that context, we were on the path to most organisations looking towards cloud-based working. Some organisations had already started a little bit of working from home. It was often called working from home, or we're a flexible working provider. To be fair, not a lot were doing, it was more by default than design. Some were working in that from a design perspective. And then COVID hit and it just really accelerated. We should have, those of us that didn't have shares in Teams or in Zoom or in a lot of companies that just went, crazy. And it happened because we had to, right? We were forced into a position where it wasn't an option. It was, that's what's happening. You're working from home. So it sped things up. And for many of us, I know it wasn't a great time. I'm not here sort of pretending like it was, but some of the positives is that, and I've heard this from some of the IT people in organizations, like all of a sudden we had a voice, we were listened to, all of a sudden we had a budget, and they prioritized the budget and said, yes, get that software now. We need it for everyone. And historically it had been a bit of in many organizations, it was like, oh, that's a big investment. Do you think we really need to? I really would like people to stay here, sort of bums on seats, I can see you. But, because of this new way of working, which we always refer to as hybrid working. So, it's hybrid, and we look at hybrid by design, it has been by default until now. But look at the positives going forward, the positives where working parents can work around their kids' schedules and not that panicked parent, which, Nadia, I'm sure you've experienced, of get out of the car, I've got to get to work. And just, I can't pick you up, I'm in a meeting. And that real dilemma as a parent, going, I need to be there for my kid, but oh my goodness, I still have to physically be here. And a lot of that's changed. We're no longer in the office from 9 to 5. And if you think about from a retention perspective, if we get out of this and it's kind of back to life as we know it, it's the expectation now. If you want to retain staff, hybrid working is what they will expect. And, so how we lead it, how we manage it is going to be really, really key. And it's not all roses. There's some real negatives, because now what happens is your in tray lives beside your bed. How many of us take our phones and put the phone beside your bed? And what do you do when you first wake up? The number of people I work with and talk to as clients, as participants, they are checking their emails and their stress levels are increasing before they've even got out of bed, before they've even had a conversation with their loved ones, whether they are flatmates, whether they are friends, whether they are family. And so you're having your breakfast already checked out because you are stressed about the email that came in at 10:45 last night that you've just seen at 7 o'clock in the morning. The technology is amazing, but it's made us available 24/7. Anywhere. You can work anywhere now. I mean, as long as you've got Wi-Fi. And, that is amazing because it creates this flexibility. It creates opportunities for people to move out of big cities and buy a house in Invercargill and still work for really great organisations. Not saying there aren't great organisations in Invercargill, because there are. But you know what I mean? Like, it opens up these possibilities for future generations where affordability is just not there anymore. But we're not in the driver's seat. We're either all on and then sleeping, or all on and then trying our best to be off. But we haven't. For many people, they just haven't navigated that well. So, if you think about retention, what are your expectations around work? What are the parameters? Are you saying, no, we don't expect you to work after hours, but you're sending emails after hours? Because it's kind of like, oh, shoot, Nadia's my boss. She says, no, we're all about balance. But how come I get 20 emails from you every night? And, if I'm going to succeed in this company, maybe that's what I have to do. Like that. We need to kick to touch. You said rushing woman syndrome, and it's kind of like we talk about this, wearing the busy badge of honor, that, I'm so busy. And that's not well-being. Well-being is switching off and going, actually, I'm not available. If there's, we talk about in PEP or Q1, if it's urgent and important, okay, who do we need to be available in our organisation around team if something crisis-wise happens? And let's make sure each and every one of us actually has switch off time. Think about kind of the last time you were truly present at home in a conversation. Especially now, we're all working from home, right? It's on surge of Omicron, and, are you trying to have conversations with the people you're at home with while you're trying to work? And it's just this big blur, and then before you know it, you're watching telly while you're trying to catch up on your emails. I've been there,
it's so easy to get stuck in that. It's so easy.
Yeah. And then it's a slippery slope, right? Because then it's this expectation of how much you can do in a day, which is totally unrealistic because you're working 12 hours, but in a not highly productive, because you're coming in and out of productivity. And, honestly, I always say to people, go and have a look at wellbeing stats and what are some of the key things you can do. And, taking breaks, taking a break and having lunch and going for a walk or sitting in the sun. And it doesn't have to be an hour, but it can, just be a 10-minute micro break to recharge and to get yourself so that you can be back in that workflow and in the zone. And if you fill your tank, it's a bit like the Air New Zealand ad, put your oxygen on before you put everyone else's around you on. And yet we don't do that in a work setting. We typically, as especially managers, they're like, no, okay, I'll just make sure my people are all good, but it's okay for me to work all weekend.
It's that badge of honor as well, a little bit, where we've come from this generation of that, and to be seen as being busy is, rather than being actually effective or focused or results, which is a completely different way of looking at it to just being busy or having lots and lots going on.
Yeah, absolutely. And like, being busy doesn't mean you're important. Like, there's this association, I'm really important, look how busy I am. And I think it's kind of like, okay, what, every single day, one of my key things is, what are the 3 things I need to get done today that are really important? And people might say to me, 3, do you want to do 3 things? But it's the three important things that will move our business forward. And of course, there's, a truckload of things that come in and around and fall out of that. But, you want to really be thinking about, as an individual, set yourself up for success. Like, what do you need to do to actually feel good? Imagine every day getting to the end of the day feeling good and not feeling guilty. And I think the guilty one's a big one for me, because work never ends. You don't get to the end of the in tray on your desk anymore. You could read 24/7 and there's still more reading. There's a real thing. This is the real thing for me, is people quoting all the books they've read. And it's kind of like, okay, that's just adds a whole nother layer of pressure.
Yes. Podcasts that people are listening to, books that they're reading. Definitely, I agree. And I think it's the that guilt thing, I think, for parents as well, and especially mothers, I think, is around working can be huge. I love this conversation. I can talk for hours on this conversation, and I think it's one that we can continue to open up as we go through. I would love to ask to kind of round all of that out. Is what wisdom would you offer to our listeners if they were wanting to make a couple of changes? So just a couple of key things that they could take away to help possibly some of that unwell-being that we've been speaking about.
Okay, so I'll give a couple of, let me give you three things. So the first thing I would say is, at the end of every week, we call it a wrap, but don't even worry about what the terminology is. But at the end of every week, just look back for 5 minutes and find the things that you can get some joy out of, that you achieved. Like, what did you do that was great? What was a win? What did you progress? Because we are always looking forward, and sort of stopping to just my grandmother always used to say, stop and smell the roses, but it's true, just stopping and looking back and going, actually, you know what? And even if it's a tiny thing, I had that conversation and that's awesome, because that's progressed that. Cool. And then look ahead. And when you're looking ahead, it's all about planning. And the first thing I'd recommend is plan your family time and your exercise time in, and then let work fall around that. Because what typically people do is they plan their work and run out of time for family. And it doesn't just have to be family, obviously, loved one, friends, your dog, whatever that means to you. But plan that first and get that in. So get the exercise and the time with your loved ones in. And then when it comes to the plan, we always have this line where we say, plan your work and then work your plan. It's one thing to plan it, but you actually have to turn up every day and go, cool, I need to really stick to this plan, and just be prepared that initially you'll be overly optimistic, because I see it every time. I can do this many things in a day, and actually the realization that I didn't allow enough time. So kind of, don't be hard on yourself, just tweak it as you go, plan to do less. And the only other thing I'd say, the third thing I'd say is, when you need to have pockets, whether it's an hour, whether it's 20 minutes, whatever you can do, turn off your notifications. Like, turn off your email, turn off your Teams notifications, so that you can actually get into flow. Because even if you're just in flow for 20 minutes or 40 minutes, that's quality focus time. And it's amazing the difference that can make.
Amazing. I 100% agree with everything that you've said there, Jo. I've actually been to the program with one of my employees, and those were probably the main things. And for me, the bit around that, where honouring your calendar, honouring your plan. It's very easy to do your planning, to do your wrap, but it's very different. And I actually, if you look at my calendar, I live by my calendar, rather than living by my emails. And that's a massive thing, which I learned out of that, was prioritizing and actually honoring. And I think that's something we need to learn. And if we can do that, then that can really help those small wins, that we can look at the end of the week and say, yes, I did that and I achieved that. Because so often emails can just leave us days, and you don't actually accomplish anything. So it's being able to kind of push the inbox to the side and honor what's actually in your calendar. And you'll feel those wins. Hey, thank you so much, Jo. I have absolutely just adored having this conversation with you. There are so many things that are so close to my heart. I love the hybrid work. We call it free range working. We're moving to free range working at Umbrella rather than working from home. Work from where you need to be able to work from, and that to me is also a massive. It's very close to my heart. I'm a mum of 2 boys. I would not be able to do my job. I would not be able to do this if I did not have that flexibility that I am actually granted, more so in the IT industry, because we sell it. We kind of need to live it, but I'm very, very lucky. I'm very lucky in that I've got that, and I'd love to be able to enable more people to be able to do that as well. So for me, huge. I love that Pep actually talks to the humanware while we're supplying the software. You guys are really supplying that humanware and helping them to actually utilize that. And at the end of the day, this all comes back down to happier people and better business metrics, and that's what we're trying to do. So thank you again, Joe, for joining me. Until next time, and obviously if there's anyone would like to have a chat with Joe, reach out and we can put you in touch.
Awesome. Thanks, Nadia.